I arrived for the family reunion that I had funded. The house was deserted. Mom laughed. "Oh, that was yesterday. We'll save you some leftovers." I stayed silent, but by morning, the police had a lot to say. When I volunteered to cover the cost for the entire family reunion, I did it because I truly wanted to bring everyone together. After years of drifting apart, petty disagreements, and awkward silences on birthdays, I thought it was time to give it another shot. I booked the Airbnb, sent out the invitations, took care of the catering, and even arranged travel for a couple relatives who couldn't afford the trip. It cost me over $4,000, but I didn't mind. It was worth it to have one weekend where we could be a family again. Or so I believed. The reunion was planned for Saturday. I intended to drive down early that morning and arrive just before lunch. However, work ran late on Friday night, and I overslept. I rushed through the entire drive, my stomach twisting with excitement and anxiety. When I finally pulled into the driveway, my heart sank. The house was entirely silent. No cars, no sounds, no kids playing in the yard. Just a lonely driveway and a closed front door. I thought maybe they had gone out for an activity or a walk. But when I stepped inside, the reality hit me hard. Empty plates were in the sink. Used napkins were crammed into a trash bag by the door. Half-eaten cake, slightly stale, was still on the counter. The place reeked of the aftermath of the party. My party, the one I had funded. I stood there in silence, heart racing, trying to make sense of it all. I pulled out my phone and called my mom. She answered after 2 rings, and her voice had that airy, smug tone that always made me feel like a child. "Oh, sweetie," she laughed. "That was yesterday. We figured you weren't coming. Don't worry, we'll save you some leftovers." I didn't say a word, not a single one. I hung up. My body felt numb, as if someone had flipped a switch to my emotions. I wandered through every room, absorbing the remnants of the reunion I had missed. Framed photos on the mantel. I was in the group family picture on the fridge with a sticky note that read 2025 finally all together. I was the one who had brought them together, and they hadn't even waited for me. I spent the night alone in that house. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I just sat in that empty living room, wondering how I could have ever thought they would change. This wasn't just a scheduling mistake. It was deliberate, a message. I wasn't really part of the family, not in the way they were with each other. I was the one they tolerated, the one who always tried too hard, the one they happily accepted money from, but never considered part of the circle. But that night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to lash out. I wasn't going to beg for answers or yell over the phone. I was done chasing them. I packed up in the morning and left the key in the lockbox. But before I left, I made one last call. You see, in all the hustle and planning, I had done everything properly. The house was rented under my name. The catering was charged to my account. The deposit for the venue was non-refundable unless cancellation was submitted in writing. And interestingly, no one had gotten my written consent to show up a day early and use the property without me present. That was a key clause, unauthorized use. That's considered trespassing. And for any damages, I'm liable unless I report it. So I did. I filed a police report. When the officer called back, he sounded more amused and concerned at first until I sent over photos. The bottles of alcohol, the torn patio screen, the broken garden lights. I explained everything from the scheduling to the messages and receipts. Then he became serious, because it wasn't just trespassing. It was theft of services, misuse of a rental property, and depending on the Airbnb owner's response, possibly even fraud. I didn't hear from my family the rest of the day, but I didn't need to. The police were already knocking on doors by sunset. The first call came around 11 a.m. It was my sister Jamie, whose voice was usually so smug and passive-aggressive, now shaky and uncertain. Why the hell did the cops just show up at my house? I kept my voice calm. You'll have to ask them. Maybe it's about the property you all broke into. She went on a rant, calling me petty and dramatic, asking how I could do this to my own family. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. The pictures did all the talking for me. And now the police were doing the rest. An hour later, My cousin Mark texted me in all caps, saying I was blowing everything out of proportion and ruining people's lives over a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. That was rich. As if they hadn't planned the whole thing. As if they hadn't gathered without me, feasted without me, and celebrated each other's company, without even sending me a text to inform me they were changing the date. Not one of them thought to check in with the person footing the bill, but the reality hit them harder than they anticipated. The Airbnb host was unhappy. He was a retired lawyer who owned a few properties as side income, and when he learned the full story and saw the security footage, he didn't take it lightly. He emailed me back, expressing appreciation for my honesty, but he was pursuing damages through the platform and possibly through civil court, depending on how things went. He had already submitted a formal complaint, and I was cleared from any liability. Everything would fall on the unauthorized guests. By evening, I found out that my uncle received citation for public disturbance because of noise complaints from neighbors. Apparently, their little pre-reunion party on Friday night went late into the night, and many guests were drunk in the backyard. Not only that, but someone parked on a neighbor's lawn and knocked over a decorative mailbox while backing out. That neighbor also filed a report. The fallout was escalating, and I just watched it all unfold. But what really changed the game was the group chat. Aunt Linda, always a peacemaker, sent a message trying to ease tensions. Something like, "Let's not forget we're family. Mistakes were made. Let's just apologize and move on." But instead of apologies, the knives came out. Jamie blamed Mom for changing the date last minute without informing me. Mom blamed Jamie for not texting me and assuming someone else would. Uncle Dan chimed in, saying he warned everyone that moving into Friday was a bad idea and that they were lucky I didn't press full charges. Cousin Mark shared screenshots showing that Mom insisted I didn't need to be told about the new date because I was always late and would probably mess it up anyway. That was the moment it all clicked. They didn't forget. They excluded me on purpose. They assumed I would mess things up. So instead of giving me a chance, they work around me. I wasn't just left out. I was intentionally pushed aside. I left one final message in the group chat. No yelling, no name calling, just the truth. Thanks for confirming what I already suspected. I was never really family to any of you, just a wallet with a familiar face. Don't worry, I won't be at any future reunions. And you won't have to worry about my money either. Good luck explaining everything to the Airbnb host. Then I exited the group. The silence that followed was louder than anything else. A few tried to text me privately, some half-hearted apologies, some more insults disguised as explanations. I didn't respond. I didn't owe them anything anymore. Not my time, not my forgiveness, and certainly not my money. It's been 3 weeks since all this unfolded. The Airbnb host followed through on his claims and filed for damages. As of now, my family is being held jointly responsible for the misuse of property and is dealing with Airbnb directly. I'm in the clear. My reviews remain intact. Sure, my bank account took a hit, but it was worth it. I've also started therapy again. It's helping. I never realized how much of my life had been spent trying to earn the approval of people who only saw me as a means to an end. Letting go of that hope, as painful as it is, has been the most liberating experience I've ever had. I won't pretend to be completely okay. There's a certain grief in losing your family while they're still alive. But now I know where I stand. And for once, I'm standing on my own terms. Let them enjoy their leftovers.